It's got a lot to do with Brexit. I'm sorry, I don't want to bring it up, but I mean, the Brexit
Bring up whatever you like.
The biggest disaster I've...
Alan Sugar has, once again, waded in and given Britain some Brexit truths. Brexit is the worst decision of my lifetime. I think it probably could be the worst decision for some considerable time by this country. Centuries, probably. When have we ever made such a terrible decision to shoot ourselves in both feet and literally ensure that we've lost our strength and our ability to influence the world, and not only that, our ability to be sovereign ourselves. We're losing food security. We are in a very weak position, and the only winner of this is Vladimir Putin, who is so delighted, especially now that Donald Trump is in power and doing as Putin wants him to do. And here we are, dithering and delaying. Keir Starmer is trying to make Brexit work and go cap in hand to Donald Trump for a disastrous trade deal, which will decimate our agriculture and our food standards and our public health. It is a disaster to do this. People voted for Brexit on lies. They never explained that Brexit meant an American trade deal and a decimation of our food standards, our animal welfare standards and our environmental standards. They told every lie available to try and get people, con people into voting Brexit, to believing the untruths of what Brexit has ensured. And now polls are showing us only about 13% actually believe Brexit is good. The rest of the country admits that Brexit is terrible. Some people believe Nigel Farage's lies, that somewhere there is an ability for a better Brexit. There isn't an ability for a better Brexit. And you're seeing that really what America is doing under Trump is similar to Brexit with tariffs. It's self-harming. You cannot improve your economy by putting up trade barriers with your biggest market. It's that simple. And especially when it concerns your food and your food security. America is self-sufficient in food. Britain is not. Britain is not self-sufficient in energy either. We rely on the continent next door to us. We can't pick up Britain and move it to another part of the world. If Scotland were to say they wanted to leave the UK to suddenly plug into Asia, most people in England would be laughing their socks off. And quite frankly, there is no difference between what Scotland's saying that and what Brexit Britain is saying. It's ludicrous nonsense. And we've carried on pretending ourselves in some form of tragic comedy, like a Shakespearean tragedy. And we continue with it to this day because we don't have a bold politician who can stand up and say what Alan Sugar has said today.
Britain today, stuck, isn't it?
It's stagnant, yeah.
Declining?
It's got a lot to do with Brexit. I'm sorry, I don't want to bring it up, but I mean, the Brexit
Bring up whatever you like.
The biggest disaster I've experienced in my whole lifetime in business career.
Those people who will be responsible for putting this country into 5 to 10 years of post-Brexit turmoil based on lies should be in prison.
Brexit was a total, absolute disaster. And anybody who says it's not is deluded. That has changed so many things.
What do you think it would take to get this country growing again?
Go back into Europe? Seriously. I mean, I've never met Starmer, but if I ever did, I would ask him, is it possible? What mechanism would it take to effectively get down on your bended knees and beg to be allowed back in again? That's what I would do. If I was in charge, I would beg to get back in again.
I've never really associated you with begging.
Exactly. That's how bad it is.
There's a bit of difference. Donald Trump is going to do whatever Donald Trump wants to do, or marginally worst case scenario, he's going to do whatever Vladimir Putin wants him to do. Tell me I'm wrong. Liz is in Cricklade. Liz, what would you like to say?
Hello, James. You've almost worked it out, haven't you? That the pantomime actually began with making a mockery out of democracy, with lies and misinformation, getting people to vote against their own interests, with culture wars. And really what we have is the reality, or facing the reality, that he is behind us and that really we are a vassal state of America. We were protected from being in the EU. We had, power within that body. And now we've lost all control. And it is America first, and we're coming to terms with that. I came to terms with this some time ago because Brexit for agriculture always meant giving in to American food,
to American interests, to the big lobbies and the tinned chicken and the antibiotic ridden cows and all that sort. Well, and I know that's very much your field of expertise, but that was going to happen to an America led by somebody who isn't unhinged or psychopathic. So there has to be something about Trump that is unique, that changes the relationship. Whether it was ever special or not, I don't know. But you could bend the ear of previous presidents. If we'd undertaken a trade deal or a trade negotiation, you could have had give and take. You could have had quid pro quo. There would have been diplomacy. There would have been soft power. I don't think any of this applies to Trump.
I think that, you're looking at a party, the Republican Party has allowed Trump to come back in again, knowing full well what he did before. Steve Bannon has been clear about his desire for world war for, some considerable time, because America wants to dominate, and it's been threatened by China rising in power, and that's what it wants.
So Keir Starmer is...
We are literally, we are facing reality of thinking there was a better world outside the European Union. America, particularly Republicans, hate the European Union because the single market offers a buffer to stop us being dominated by the USA.
And a competitor.
And a competitor, and we were getting bigger within and more powerful within the European Union, yes. But we left. Now we are powerless, and we are... To all intents and purposes, you don't need to militarily invade a country now, as we are seeing. It was done through a referendum where lies were missold.
I think you deserve some sort of award. I am perilously close, for the very first time in history, certainly in the history of this programme. I'm perilously close to telling somebody to stop bringing it all back to Brexit, which would be the absolute height of hypocrisy for me, as I know you know.
It doesn't all go back to Brexit,
of course.
As your previous caller showed. There's plenty that's gone on before, but for us, losing control happened with Brexit because we were no longer within the protection of the European Union. And so Keir Starmer is a puppet, yes.
And how compromised do you think the European Union is as a force by the fact that we're no longer in it? Because we never really look down that end of the telescope, do we? Because we're busy on this side of the channel.
Well, we've always had this NATO thing with America, and as your other caller said about the missiles and so forth, which isn't my area of expertise, but they've had a grip on Europe, but we did have a way of actually fending off America with with the single market, which actually Margaret Thatcher invented, or, is at the heart of inventing. So the same is with which side of the car do you drive on, or, a systems thing. It's about systems, and America doesn't want to cede control to anyone else. And we're a very small country who used to have an empire, and that empire is getting, it's gone, but we did have a few pockets left, but even that's gone now because Chagos Island's gone. What's going to happen with Gibraltar? Goodness only knows.
I can't have to tell you to cheer up. I mean, that was such a bleak analysis, but again, that would be me scaling dizzy heights of hypocrisy. Liz, thank you. And I agree with Liz, and I don't know that we'll ever be able to really start the business of fixing things until we acknowledge that Brexit was another dream, another Kremlin dream come true. It's funny.
A few months ago, John McTernan, who was part of Tony Blair's team, went on GB News and he announced that the Labour government were going to do to farming what Thatcher did to the mines. And it is now absolutely clear that he was telling the truth. And in a very short space of time, we've had assault after assault after assault on British farming. And lots of people think, I don't care, they all voted for Brexit, those farmers, let them get what they voted for. Well, there's a fundamental problem with this, in that whether you like it or not, you are actually related to farming, because to a large extent, since the last war, most British food that is consumed here has come from a British farm. And since Brexit happened, more and more factory farms have been opening up. These large factory farms with huge numbers of animals, more of them have been opening up. A lot of them owned by a company called Cranswick, or another one, Cargill Avara. And so there's more intensive chicken and more intensive pork, more intensive beef being reared in this country. And it's really broken out since Brexit happened. They've increased by 20%, which is phenomenal. And they are selling these products in the supermarkets with labelling saying that they come from a farm, but it's not a farm as we know. It's from a factory, which is intensive and not what most people would probably be that comfortable with. It's more an American style of food production. So the offensive on the family farms started with the budget and the inheritance tax, which some people thought it was a good idea. A lot of people did, actually. There's lots of comments. But what they don't understand is that what the Labour government are doing is actually rolling out Patrick Minford's plan, which is to run down our industry, as they did the mines, and replace it with corporate interests, which is an acceleration of capitalism and a sort of washing away of what we've been used to, a family farm system which looks after animals, which through democracy people could improve standards as well, and react to that through democratic and government controls. And once you hand the car keys to the corporates, as we know with the water utilities in particular, we totally lose control. And that is what is going on with our food system. And now we have the American trade deal back on the table. Jonathan Reynolds, who is the Trade Secretary, admitted that he was wrong to lie on his CV and that he wasn't really a solicitor. And he's going over to America to sign a deal with the Americans, hopefully they reckon by the 1st of April. This deal they're trying to make out will be a technical deal, and it won't have anything big in it like agriculture. I doubt that is the case. America has a huge agricultural lobby, and it's highly unlikely that any trade deal is going to go through Congress unless it's got American agriculture first. But we will wait and see what happens after the 1st of April. And no doubt we're going to be talking a lot about chlorinated chicken again and hormone-fed beef, which I have been mentioning since the autumn, when it became apparent that the Labour Party, the Labour government, I should say, wanted to defend the previous administration's trade deals by trying to derail the judicial review to expose that the Australia trade deal never had an impact assessment as required by international law, and also never had any parliamentary scrutiny either. The Labour government are not only continuing what the Conservatives did in the last government, but actually aggressively continuing it. So much so that many of the Conservatives are feeling that they don't really know how to oppose the government because they're agreeing with what they're doing.
His name is Ethelred. Ethel for short. Ethel, come on.
He's a fat thing, isn't he?
He's a bit stockier than the others, isn't he? Ethelred is your new home.
got a bit of a bald spot on the top of his head as well.